Before I learned to be Marilyn Monroe, I had to learn to survive. In 1947, Fox Films didn't renew my contract. I didn't give them what they wanted. They didn't see potential in me. I wasn't part of the game. And of course, I wasn't good enough for them. Hollywood called this a silent dismissal. Those were very difficult times. I didn't have money to buy food. Sometimes I ate only bread. Other times, some kind soul noticed my difficulty and offered me a plate of food. My God, only you know how I spent those sleepless nights. Desperate, under pressure, hungry, and the worst, a constant, persistent physical pain that wouldn't let me sleep. I worked as a calendar model. I had small roles in films for other productions companies, and I don't know exactly how, but the public began to notice my presence. My name, Marilyn Monroe, began to gain prominence, but the truth is that I was practically rewriting my destiny. I didn't accept no. I knocked on production company doors. I asked to audition. I attend countless auditions. And to make it clear why it's unacceptable, intolerable, that they say that I, after becoming famous, tried to take my own life twice. I never gave up on living during the worst moments of my life, without money, alone, unemployed, without food, in pain. Why would I do that when I had stability? I got out of bed every day of my life to win, even drugged by doctors and agents. Perhaps that was the greatest act of resistance in my life, and everyone around me understood Marilyn Monroe is unstoppable. I'm going to share one audition in particular so you will understand who I was, my personality, my perseverance. At that audition, the producers asked the girls to form two lines, one for natural blondes, the other for brunettes. Soon after, they said the audition was only for blondes. I immediately joined the blonde line. My hair was dyed a dark golden blonde. A producer came up to me and said, "Didn't you hear? The audition is for blondes. Get out of that line." I immediately replied, "Why do you think I'm here? I'm blonde. I was born blonde, very blonde. I'm an actress and a model, and I just did a campaign for a blonde hair dye brand. But today, I will be going back to my natural color." I don't know if he believed me or if he realized I already knew how to act. The fact is, I auditioned, I was chosen, and that character was exactly what caught the attention of the public and Fox Films, who quickly realized they had made a mistake and he hired me. I trained exhaustively. I studied a lot. I walked in different hill heights. I tried different looks in the mirror, smiles, postures, constant corrections, exhausting ones. Producers and executives kept telling me, less thinking, more smiling. There were nights and nights without sleep. Teachers and choreographers were demanding, bordering on rude. It was never good enough. I felt insecure. I had anxiety attacks, emotional instability, fear of being thrown out on the street, fear of being without a contract again, without money to pay the rent. The deepest fear was that the only address I could go to was the psychiatric clinic where my mother was. People close to me transformed this fear into panic, cruelly, subtly, constantly. There was a lot of harassment, and I defended myself all the time. I played the game. I created strategies. I had one absolutely certainty. The day I went to bed with one of those executives, I would be discarded like so many other actresses have been. And I need to say something that has never been said honestly. I suffered from endometriosis, sharp pains, intense physical pain, even during sexual acts. So, no, I was never the sex machine they invented. It was impossible to be the alcoholic they wrongly described me as, and at the same time, dependent on the medication that the studio doctors, managers, and agents forced me to take. It was a body suffering from pains not yet understood by medicine, a body that couldn't generate life. I had 3 desired pregnancies, expected with love. None result in birth. 2 miscarriages, 1 ectopic pregnancy. After my studies in medicine in my current life, and through my life experience as Marilyn Monroe, I'm absolutely certain that Marilyn Monroe also suffered from fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia causes diffuse chronic pain, extreme fatigue, non-restorative sleep, sensitivity to thought, headaches, bowel problems, and difficulty concentrating. It wasn't diagnosed at that time. Women were labeled as hysterical, psychosomatic, unstable. That's the truth that doesn't sell newspaper. With a photo, a name, and a few words spoken by my mother, I paid a symbolic amount to an investigator. I found the address of the man who should have been my father. On the other end, silence. My face was already beginning to be recognized as Marilyn Monroe. He had a new family, and he made my insignificance clear. I felt devastated, empty. This added to the abuses of childhood, my mother's pain, the hostility and arrogance of the men around me left me practically shielded. What they call loneliness was solitude, choice. I always preferred to be alone than to allow them to steal my time. Women were raised to be submissive. That was never my script. It was never the script of thousands of women in the world. In 1950, the Marilyn Monroe effect was born. The studio decided I should be sexy, childlike, non-threatening. That wasn't who I was. That's what sold. I studied dramatic acting, not just comedy acting. Diction, body movement. I was obsessed with learning. Natasha Lights was my mentor. Also a toxic relationship, control, emotional dependence, planted fears. They reinforced in me the dread of going crazy like my mother. None of this was a coincidence. There was a time when my body was my only currency. When I agreed to pose nude, it was not out of vanity or provocation, but out of hunger, out of overdue rent, out of survival. I received only $50. I made a single request that the photographer's wife, Tom Kelly's wife, remained with me at all times so that nothing went beyond the artistic. Years later, in December 1953, those images were sold without my knowledge or consent to Hugh Hefner, the owner of Playboy. I did not receive a single penny from the millions of copies sold. This selfish and profoundly misogynist act nearly destroyed my career, just as it had destroyed the careers of so many other women before me. I was told to deny it, to claim it was not me, but I chose the truth. I went public and said, yes, it's me. I took those photographs for art, for necessity, because I had no money to eat, no money to pay the rent. In return for my honesty, the public embraced me, but the wound of that disrespect, it never healed within me. Joe DiMaggio wasn't a modern villain. He was a man shaped by another era, another culture, another silence. He confused love with protection, protection with control, not out of malice, but as a learning experience. Joe never asked me to abandon my career. Never ever. Conflict was never my job. It was how I was treated. The white dress scene in 1954 was deliberately exposed to the public. Thousands of men screaming, mixed harassment, humiliation. Joe was indignant, not with me, with the system. What really happened in the hotel room was a verbal argument. It was past 4 a.m. Joe was yelling about how disrespected I had been. He demanded that I stand up for myself or I would never be respected as an artist. On the other hand, I yelled that I needed to follow a contract I myself had signed. We were both tired, angry, but my exhaustion had reached its limit. Joe never hit me in the face. He would be incapable of that. Anyone intelligent and expert can prove this. Imagine the strength Joe DiMaggio had. Imagine the fury he was in. If he had actually hit me in the face, I would have been disfigured, incapable of working the next day, possibly with some facial fracture. Joe was a champion, a baseball player with extreme physical strength, especially in his arms. I had an extremely delicate and fragile body. I'm recounting exactly what happened in that room. The argument went past 6 a.m. I was in tears. I didn't sleep, neither did Joe, but there was a sepulchral silence in the room. I cried uncontrollably, releasing all my exhaustion and hatred for everything I had endured since childhood. My intuition told me there was no way to fix what had been broken that day. I understood that what Joe said made sense, but perhaps he hadn't remembered where I came from, the poverty and abandonment, and that I would be thrown out onto the street without work, without money, and my fate would then be the sanatorium. When I returned to resume filming, without sleep, without food, weakened, with the eyes swollen from crying. Everyone already knew about the fight with Joe, as the film production was staying at the same hotel in rooms next to ours. There were no bruises on my face, only eyes swollen for crying and dark circles under my eyes from someone who hadn't slept for more than 48 hours. There isn't even a record from the makeup artist or anyone from the production saying that Joe hurt me. Make no mistake, this was all the studios wanted to create a police report against Joe in 1954. This fallacy was created in 1970. I had already been dead for years. But why not create false stories to sell newspapers and magazines? Lack of character, inhumanity, lack of ethics. I was forced to attend several meetings. I suffered threats from studios, managers, agents, doctors, lawyers. Everyone said I only had one solution: separate from Joe and let the lawyers take care of everything. And then everything would be resolved. When I allowed the lawyers to file for divorce from Joe DiMaggio in 1954, they cited the legal cause of mental cruelty as the reason for the separation. This term was famous at the time. In divorce proceedings, especially among celebrities, mental cruelty was one of the most commonly used legal grounds when there was no clear evidence of physical abuse, but there was a pattern of harmful behavior. It allowed one party to say in court that the other made marriage life unsustainable without necessarily having to prove explicit injuries or physical abuse. It is important to make it clear that if there had been proof of physical abuse, Joe would have been prosecuted and punished for it. Don't forget, Joe wasn't welcome in Hollywood. Joe and I separated a few months later, and the divorce was finalized in October 1954. I haven't stopped expressing to close friends and family my deep regret about how everything happened. I cried when talking about the wedding. I said things like I ruined everything in moments of vulnerability. I felt that I didn't know how to protect myself. I didn't know how to stand up to the studio. I was alone in the middle of the conflict. There are people still alive who know I'm telling the truth. Please don't be silent. Help me get justice. It's important to state that I never went to a psychiatric clinic because of my separation from Joe, as shown in videos made by inhumane, uninformed people who only want to make money by creating tragedies and defaming people and reputations. I plunged into deep sadness and guilt, alone in a hotel room that the studios paid for, almost as if to say, "Look how good we are to you. We give you comfort, but we can also take everything away and throw you out on the street." The real Joe DiMaggio, the elegant, reserved man he always was, never publicly denied the accusations and insults that attacked his honor. He remained silent. He continued to love me. He continued to care for me until the end of my life. Joe was the only true friend I had, a friend without ulterior motives. He was the one who helped me emotionally, financially, silently. Me and so many other people. and few people know this. Days before my death, he was still coming to my house to have breakfast with me. Those who truly knew me knew. The people who hurt me, who wounded me, I removed from my life. I didn't want to see them anymore. Joe was never on that list. He never asked anything in return. He never demanded the recognition. He was wronged. I carried a deep guilt with me. I asked him for forgiveness many times, and he always forgave me. This justice needs to be done. Even after my death on August 4, 1962, his stance remained the same. He never gave interviews, never wrote books, never tried to defend himself in newspapers or magazines. He remained silent, introspective, living in mourning, bringing flowers to my grave. This man, a hero of the United States, deserves to have his story told as it was. He deserves to know how he was wronged. And that is why I'm undertaking this mission, to tell the true story, to say who was who, to show what really happened. No one has the right to take this voice from me, and they won't. For the first time, this story is told from the protagonist's perspective. I didn't know it yet, but soon I would try something unthinkable: to take control of my own life.